Hey adventurers, so today's going to be a video talking about some popular series and whether I want to read them or not. I have 10 of each, and so we'll go through this list. And we'll start with the negatives so that we can end on a positive. So yeah, let's see. The first one on this list is A Song of Ice and Fire. I really have no desire to read this. I've heard a lot of things about it over the years. A lot of people say a lot of great things about it, and a lot of people talk about the bad stuff that's in it too. And there's never been something that has made me think, oh, I might want to read that series. But there has been plenty of things that have made me say, I really don't have any desire to read that series. And I just don't want to consume that sort of content. And I know some of these other series that I'll mention do have some of that stuff in it, and maybe even to a larger degree at times. But there's also just more things that it depends on the series, but there's those things that are included, but I want to read the series for other reasons, and so it's still on this list. And who knows, these things could change. Also, feel free to convince me one way, or try and convince me one way or the other on them if you would like, or just talk about other popular series that I don't mention here. Anyways, now that I've rambled about that, let's move on to the series that I would like to try that's super popular. And that would be the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. I know that this one is just now finishing up with its release of book 7, and so I could absolutely get into this at this point and just read through the entire series. This is one that I've been wanting to read basically since book 1. I remember hearing lots of people talk about it, but I specifically remember hearing Liam from Liam's Lyceum talking about this one before it became popular, and him wanting and talking is the first book, Empire of Silence, I believe, and just talking about that, reviewing it and stuff like that. And so since then it's been on my radar, and I've been interested in it. And with it wrapping up, and with all the things that I've been hearing about it, I really haven't heard much in terms of negative things about this, other than that it's too long, and some people and the storytelling doesn't work for certain people, and those things are completely different. I'm genuinely really interested in reading Sun Eater, and I would like to at some point. Another popular series that I don't want to right now, even though it's a prominent series right now because it's also just had its second book release, and that is the Hierarchy series, or the first book is The Will of the Many by James Islington, I think. And this one, I've heard so many people talk about The Will of the Many, and everybody who reads it tends to really enjoy it, but there's never been something said about it that has made me think, oh, that sounds interesting, I want to read that. And that's kind of what we're gonna be seeing with a lot of these other ones. Just I hear about them, and they don't seem interesting to me. They don't seem like something that I would like to spend my time reading, I guess is the good way to put it. So yeah, I don't care to read that one either. Another one that I would like to try is the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. And this is a series where I don't know that I will enjoy it, and I think that there's probably going to be more adult content in it than I care to consume. And so probably I will not enjoy this, and I'll probably end up DNFing the series even if I do start it. But with that being said, there's enough in this series that has me intrigued that I want to at least give it a try. And so I like the mythology aspect that it's pulling from all these real world myths. I like what I've heard about it, and it just, there's some things about it that sound interesting to me, even though I also know that there's some things in it that I'm not going to enjoy. Number 3 that I don't want to try is the Remembrance of Earth's Past, or the Three Body Problem series by, I don't know how to pronounce the name, Cixin Liu or something like that, Cixin Liu maybe, I'm not sure. But I don't, it's a series that I at one point I thought, well, maybe I might want to try this because I was just getting into sci-fi, just trying, like, it was right. And when I was early watching BookTube, I remember seeing people talk about it and really be appreciating what it was doing and stuff like that. But as I've sat and thought about it and continued my reading journey, it's gotten to the point where there's no draw for me to it anymore. And so because of that, I think I'm just gonna skip it and not worry about it. And I'm okay with that because I've got so many books that I do want to read and that I do know that I'll enjoy, that I am okay with intentionally not reading other series, even if there's nothing specifically wrong with the other series, or even if they're very well loved series. I don't care. I don't need to read what other people are reading just to read what other people are reading. Number 3 for ones that I'd like to try is Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. The first book is the Greenbone Dragon Bone Chair. This is Dragon Bone Chair. And that's one that I have heard a lot of really positive things. I've heard that it's a little bit darker, a little bit heavier on adult content as well. And but primarily what I've heard about it is that it's like influential classic fantasy, whatever that really means. And but the things that I have heard about it are interesting to me. Plus I like the title, the Greenbone Chair, the Dragon Bone Chair. And there's enough things about this series that I am intrigued by, that it continues being a series that I would like to try. And again, all of these series could switch at various times. Maybe someday I will want to read one of these that I have on the other list, or vice versa. And so yeah, back to ones I don't want to read. Number 4, The Dandelion Dynasty by Kinlu. And this is one where I don't know what it is about this series, but it's another one where I just have no desire to read it. I've heard so many things about it. I have in the past wanted to read this one, thought, oh, that sounds really interesting, but the more it's another one where the longer it sits, the more I just don't care. And it feels like it's going to be one where I'm going to invest a lot of time into the series and come away not having enjoyed it as much as I would like to. And so it's one where I think that I'm okay with skipping Dandelion Dynasty. Coming back around to number 4, got Realm of the Elderlings as a series that I do want to try. In fact, I've had Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I guess that's what I should say. I've had Assassin's Apprentice on my physically. I've owned it physically for a long time now, and several years, and I've wanted to try it. I just prioritize other things, push it off, can't get to it at the moment, am worried about how long it's going to take me to get through it, stuff like that. And so I've continually pushed it off, but I do think it's one that I'm going to enjoy, and I hear enough things about it that intrigue me that I would like to try it out at some point. All right, the next one that I have is actually an author, and I actually have an author that I want to, in this number 5 spot is an author that I don't really care if I ever try, and an author that I do want to try. And so that worked out surprisingly well. It wasn't intentional or planned, but it happened to work out. And so anyways, the author that I had, the more I think about it, the more I see about it, that I just don't really care if I try, would be Mark Lawrence. There's other authors as well, but everything that I hear about his series, it's never really intrigued me. There's been some moments where I'm like, oh well, maybe I'll read that at some point. But I've gotten to the point where I've got so much to read that I want to read, that these ones that are like, well, maybe I'll get to it at some point, they're just ones that I'm not going to. And none of the series that I've heard about from Lawrence have had me intrigued. I appreciate what he has done in the self-published community. That I think that's really cool. I don't necessarily have a problem with him as an author, but just I'm not terribly interested in his books, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. If you think differently, you're free to tell me in the comments, or you're free to go about your merry way and think what you want to think. Anyways, as for an author that I would like to try, John Gwynne. I can't remember what the 2 series are, but automatically the Shadow of the Gods, is that the book with the giant dragon on the front? I'm intrigued by that one. I like dragons, but no, that's a series that I've kind of followed as it's come out, and I'm intrigued enough that I want to try that one. I've also heard a whole lot about is it Faithful and the Fallen? I don't know. I don't remember what the series titles are. The one with Wrath and Ruin and Malice and Valor. I don't know what the order of those books are, but I've heard a lot of people talk about them. I've heard a lot of good things about them. And it's one where I don't know that it'll be like a favorite series for me or anything like that, but I think that I'll enjoy them well enough. And so they're ones that I do want to read at some point. So yeah, that's my author that I would like to try out. Number 6 for not really care if I try them is Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. This is one where I've heard so many people rave about how incredible these books are, and I'm sure that they're as good as everybody says, but they just have no appeal to me. I don't know if it's the modern setting or the more modern setting. I don't know if it's I don't actually know what it is about this series that makes me think, no, I don't care if I read these. I don't really need to. Maybe it's me being contrarian just because it's so popular, but see, I find that hard to believe that is the case, because I have a whole list of books and series that are super popular that I do want to read. And so I don't think it's the popularity that matters with this one. There's something about it that has never intrigued me about the Greenbone Saga as much as everybody tends to love it and says that they're incredible books. On the opposite, Malazan Book of the Fallen. This is by Steven Erikson. This is one where I feel like I might not enjoy this series, but I'm intrigued by it, and I'm intrigued by the epic scale of it and how impressive the books really are. I think they're also going to be darker than I like and probably have more adult content than I like. And just all around, I don't know that I'm going to enjoy Malazan or however it's supposed to be pronounced. This is a series, though, that I've heard so many people talk about, and so many people talk about how, well, not only is it their favorite series, their favorite fantasy series, but also some people say it's my favorite over Tolkien. Tolkien was my favorite until I read Malazan and stuff like that. And there's so many things that people have said about it that make me think I need to at least try this one. Even if I'm not going to enjoy it, I need to at least try it. And I'm willing to do that with this series. I wouldn't be willing to do it with all the other series, but this one specifically, I feel like maybe there's something there that is worth it for me to try. And I don't know what that's going to be. I may read it and say, nope, I don't need to continue with the series. It wasn't anything like I was expecting or wanting or anything like that. And I just didn't enjoy it. But anyways, whatever the case, it is still on this list of series that I want to try at some point. And I don't know if I will like it, but I want to try it. Another one that I don't want to try, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This trilogy I've heard a lot of people love. I've heard a lot of people hate. And I've not heard a thing about it that makes me interested in it, and that's just gonna be what it is. I've also the other two books by Kuang, Babel and Catabasis. I'm not interested in them at all. Like, there's Babel at one point I was, and then I heard somebody talk about it and in a different, like, see a different side of it than any of the other people had ever talked about, and I was like, yeah, it's not the type of book that I want to read. I don't feel like that's going to be one that I particularly enjoy. And so I decided to remove Babel, but also specifically The Poppy War, because sometimes the standalone will pop up and I'll say, okay, maybe I'll try a standalone. Poppy War, first off, it's a trilogy, so it's not that big of a investment, but it's enough that I'm just like, again, there's other things that I do want to read far more than this. I don't really care if I read this series, and I've heard lots of people that I trust and that I tend to agree somewhat on or quite a bit on, who haven't liked it, and it seems like one that probably isn't going to work for me. Then I have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a series that I have pretty much every person that I've heard talk about this has said something in some way, whether they enjoyed the books or not, but there's something that about what they've said that has made me intrigued and made me want to try this series out. I have the first 3 books, the original Red Rising trilogy or whatever you want to call it, physically, and I want to try it out. I feel like I could get to these and get through them and enjoy them quite a bit, and I haven't yet, and that's kind of why I'm so excited to. When I found them all 3, the first 3 for super cheap in good condition. The first book's got a crease in the cover, but that's whatever. If they're fantastic, then I'll find an edition that I do like. I don't like the new editions. I have different tastes in book covers than most people, I'm finding, because a lot of the modern books that people are like, oh, it's so beautiful, I'm just like, I don't like it. I don't care for it that much. I like these covers a lot more. Maybe it's because this is what I associate with the covers. Anyways, none of that's important. I do want to try Red Rising. I think that Red Rising is going to be a series that does work for me and that I have a lot of fun with. And it's been a very impactful series to a lot of my BookTube friends. And so I feel like, well, maybe I'll give this one a try. Plus, I found the first 3 in, so I definitely want to give those first 3 a try. Dungeon Crawler Carl as number 8 that I don't care if I try. I have heard so much about this series, and just nothing about it excites me. Nothing about it says, oh, that sounds like I'm going to enjoy it. People talk about how fun it is, how funny it is, how weird it is. That mixed with the popularity, mixed with everybody caving and reading it and being like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't want to read it. I get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I think I'd be okay without this one. And again, it's nothing against the people who do read it or enjoy it, but I think this is not going to be one that I care to spend my time reading. As much fun and as much as everybody loves it, I think I'm just going to skip it, on quite honestly. Number 8 that I would like to read is King Killer Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I have The Name of the Wind here. I don't love mass market paperback. If I had a nice trade paperback or something like that, I'd probably be far more likely to get to that reasonably quicklier. That's not grammatically correct, but whatever. I've heard enough things about this. I like the idea that there's a lot of magic that has to do with music and stuff like that. And so there's just a lot of things that I really find intriguing with this series, and I would like to try it out. I've heard a lot of people that I trust talk about it and enjoy it. I've heard people that I trust talk about it who didn't enjoy it. And this is one where I genuinely think that I'm going to have to read it and make my own decision on it. And for that alone, it's not one that I want to skip. I feel like there's going to be something in here. If I don't love it, if I don't love the book or don't like it at all, that's fine. I'll put it down. I'll DNF the series, whatever. It doesn't bother me. But I'm intrigued by it, and that is enough to make me want to read it. Number 9, for ones that I don't care if I read, is The First Law by Joe Abercrombie. I've heard so many things about this. I don't care much for grimdark. And just everything I hear about the series makes me say, I think I can skip this one. I don't think I need to read this one. I'm not intrigued by the character progression, the character development that everybody raves about in this series, or the being inside their heads and learning them and knowing them so intimately and everything like that. I just think that I am okay skipping this one, especially with it being grimdark, and I don't care for grimdark. I've found that the more grimdark something is, the less I like it. That doesn't mean that I haven't enjoyed some grimdark things or some things that are grimdarker than other things. For the most part, I think that this is a series that I am okay with just skipping out on, and it's not gonna hurt me to do so. The next one that I have, the 9th one that I have for ones that I want to try, is Discworld by Terry Pratchett. I don't care about the humor. I don't care about the wit or the ability to weave the English language that everybody raves about with Discworld and with Pratchett, but there's still something intriguing me about the series. Maybe it's the fact that there's so many different sub-series within the series, and everybody has their own favorite sub-series, and if you don't like this one, you might like this one. If you don't like this one, you might like this one, type thing. And that is something that is worth me trying out. In my mind, I may not like it, but I might try and sample a couple of books from it and see if it works for me. If it doesn't, oh well, I'm not going to miss a whole lot, and I don't believe the books are too terribly long, so it's not going to be like a massive investment to try a couple of the books out from the different sub-series or whatever and see if I find one that I enjoy. If I do, that's great. If I don't, I'm okay with that. But I'm still interested enough to try this one. Last one I have on the list is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. Is that right? I have no desire to read this one. I am not a vampire fanboy or anything like that. I don't have any desire to read books about vampires or anything like that. I read Dracula recently, but I read that more. I wanted to read that more because it was a classic than because it was about vampires. Yeah, I don't feel the need to read Empire of the Vampire. I've heard so many things like it's edgy just for the sake of being edgy type stuff. The story is just completely overtaken by the gratuitousness of the adult content, including language and everything else. I don't need that in my stories, in my books, and as I've mentioned with so many of these other ones, I don't think that I need to read that. Plus, I'm not interested in the story. There's nothing about the story that has interested me. I just think that this is not one that I need to read, and I will be perfectly happy to skip this one out on this one. Then the last one that I have that I would like to try, and these are in no particular order. I should have mentioned that from the beginning, but I didn't. But the last one that I think that I would like to try at some point is The Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. This one has me intrigued. The whole idea of the Tower of Babel and magic and getting lost in the Tower of Babel and working your way to the top of the tower and just all those things, the way that it's been described to me, that's something intriguing to me, especially with what the Tower of Babel means and signifies within the Bible and within the Bible story and history and everything. That's something that I'm interested to see how it could be used. And this is kind of the reason why Babel by R.F. Kuang was at one point something that I might have been interested in reading. But since then, as I already mentioned, it's left my desire to read list. But anyways, so yeah, this one, the Books of Babel series, I like the idea that the last book in the series is controversial. That's something that intrigues me, and I want to go find out why. I want to go find out what my personal thoughts are on the series, and just overall, there's enough about the series that makes me say I can try that one out. I'm okay with that. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. It's not a terribly deep or insightful video or anything like that. I'm not really discussing anything. I'm just talking about some books that I don't care if I try, or I do want to try still for whatever reason. And I didn't even really go into all the depth of the reasons or the thoughts that I've had in regards to them or anything like that. But if you want to list some more popular series, I might think about them or whatever it might be. What series have I missed? What series should I reconsider on? Just, yeah, give me some feedback if you have any to give me. I would appreciate hearing your thoughts. I always like getting comments and hearing what people are talking about. It's just fun. It's fun to interact with the community, which I think is why so many of the booktubers continue, is because they like the interactions. And yeah, I like talking about books and stories, and when I can go a little bit more in depth with that in the comments and whatnot with individuals, that's fun to me as well. So anyways, that's really all I have to say. Nothing deep, nothing terribly profound. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay warm.